First, let me give all the administrators a round of applause for coming out. Just one other announcement that I would like to talk about, and then with the permission of the chair, I'll have question and answer session for anyone who has questions. But one of the things that I'm most proud about is the Irvington High School track and field. I don't know if many of you know, but Irvington High will be getting a brand new track and field this year, actually. Hopefully it'll be done in December. How the deal came about was there was a solar company that was interested in doing business with Irvington. I remember having a conversation with my colleagues and a close conversation with Richard Williams about people always come to our communities and drain our resources and go back wherever they're from and they live comfortably. So the issue here was, what are you going to do for the Irvington kids? What can they have that's substantial? You can't come here and pass out a couple of scholarships and give out some free lunches and think that that's okay. That's not enough. We need a long-lasting impact on their lives. And the way I look at it, a lot of people don't understand that when you have structure in sports, it can save your life. It can teach you how to deal with other people. It can teach you how to be a team player. And some of the times we miss that because when they start cutting programs, the first thing they do is cut out, not academic, your sports programs. I mean, how many people went to school here and you had shop, you had home ec, you had these other classes, and you need to have a balance. If you pump all academics in these kids, what do you expect? Even as adults, we will burn out. There's only so much you can take, so you have to have a balance. And today's balance is not in sports activities, because some kids go, you pump all the academics, they go home, play video games all night. There's no activities, and we wonder why everyone's overweight and why we have kids that are obese and all the problems that we're having. So this is something that I think will be a long-lasting impact, and I just want to commend my colleagues for supporting this initiative to finally get the Irvington students what they well deserve. So I want to give my colleagues a round of applause. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, we can open it up for any questions.
We're going to maybe ask our questions first and allow for you to ask your question. Direct it to Mr. Vauss. He can redirect if he would like. But to say that we're going to take about the next half hour to entertain questions. And the first one that I have possibly comes because most of you know I spent almost like 40 years teaching. But when I retired, I became a volunteer with the Education Law Center. So I'm an education advocate. I can't be a lawyer, but I can be an advocate. And to date, it's been 5 years of delivering testimony. Today in Trenton, the Assembly and the Senate Budget Committees conducted hearings on S3173, I believe it is, the Urban School Act, which proposes what in NAACP we oppose, more privatization tactics, so that it talks about having no bid contracts for charter schools, etc. In my background here in the town, I served on the school board twice. I served also as a commissioner for the Housing Authority twice. What we know about no bid contracts are, first, we never want to get into that practice. It doesn't benefit us. It's a reason for sending in monitors, and you usually get a raw deal. So with that, I'm asking maybe a twofold or two-pronged question. What, if any, is the position on bills like that in the Opportunity Scholarship Act, which offers vouchers but not for Irvington? And which is the plan that the district will release or is working on that talks about teacher tenure, because our governor certainly has some proposal for teacher tenure that is not grounded in the education arena. I think it will be detrimental to simply count test scores as those that evaluate the teacher's performance throughout the school year. I know that because had I had students who were advanced, I probably would be able to tout my good work and say, oh, they all got good scores and we did fine. But that's not the case. In the years that I taught, I had those who were underachievers. And so the measurement for the teacher performance when given those circumstances where you have children performing below grade level has to be a measure different than how you rate how well they scored on the standardized test. So any comments on, number one, privatizing and new bills introduced in New Jersey, and two, on teacher reform?
Oh, thank you. I will answer those questions. Sometimes, being in the public eye, you have to say things very delicately. And here I'm just going to come right out and say what it is. They look at the public school system as a business. It's a business. It's the last business left that they can rake millions of dollars from. That's why they come up with all these state monitors and oversights and overseeing, because they want the money. That's what it is. When you start talking about charter schools, you know, most people don't know the money follows the child. So if you come in and you take all the best and the brightest kids out of the public schools, then put them in the charter schools and then say, hey, look, the charter schools are excelling and the public schools aren't. Well, what do you expect? You know? And it's all about the money. And once we understand, even with the vouchers, I mean, listen, you want to talk about holding teachers accountable, getting rid of tenure. If I'm correct, hasn't the state been in charge of the North Public Schools all this time? They actually oversee the North Public Schools. Where is their accountability? They came in, took over a school district, oh, well, the test scores should be up. Because you're the ones that's setting the guidelines. You're setting a line that no one should cross. But a town right next door to North, you will come in and take over. And you haven't proven to us that you can do anything in North. So, the clear thing here is to understand. Sometimes we get all frustrated because we see what's going on, but you have to understand what they're doing. It's about the money. I know that Assemblywoman Tucker is down there in the Assembly fighting everything that this governor is trying to do on behalf of everyone here and all the students in the district. But it's not enough. We have to understand that there's a plan. They have a plan, and their plan is to get the money. By any means necessary, they want the money from the urban schools. We have different rules. I remember a few years ago, when the state monitor was in the district, they wanted to pass a nepotism policy. Now that's fine, as long as the nepotism policy applied to everyone, but it didn't apply to everyone. It only applied to urban districts. And what they wanted to do was to say, you couldn't hire none of your relatives, and they named out the relatives that you couldn't hire. And that was fine. But when we called the state to check, they wanted to know what district you're calling from, because there were different policies. Because in Livingston, they can do that. In Short Hills, they can do that. But if you're in Irvington or Newark or East Orange or Orange, you can't do that. And that's why we voted against that policy, which was overturned right in front of us by the state monitor. So I don't want anybody to be blind to the fact of what actually is going on. It's definitely about getting the money. And I agree with the chair. You can't just say it's about academics. Because let me tell you something. As soon as we meet the mark changes. They raise it higher. As soon as you reach that mark, they'll change it to something else. So we have to be clear on what is exactly going on. This is what's going on, in our district. This is why we want our teachers to know we are in support of them. That's the first contact of our kids once they leave home. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to make sure they get a proper education. And like Assemblywoman Tucker is doing, and many of the other elected officials, we have to fight to make sure that they don't drain public education for every dime that it has.
But my concern is with the board itself, and hate to be the bearer of bad news or to bring this up, but I'm glad to see that we have some board members here, and they can also, you know, add in if they want to as far as justification. My issue is the board recently hired an ex-board member for a position, and this ex-board member, from what I understand, had a lawsuit against him, and the board elected to pay its finances or pay the legal fees, and also, from what I understand, that case is lost, and I believe the board will probably wind up paying the award fees. And from what I understand also, that this board has been hired, or this ex-board member has been hired by the board, and I can't see the ethical rationale for this happening when this particular person cost the district money. And also, I know this particular individual was working for the town, and I don't know what his status is as far as working with the town and with the Board of Education. You can probably open up our eyes to that, and from what I understand, at the present time, he's not at the board job because he's still at the town job. So how does the board justify hiring a person that actually costs the school district money in the long run? So that's my issue.
Okay. Thank you for your question. This will probably be one of my easiest questions to answer, because I don't know where the information came from that the district was cost any money, but that's untrue. I can tell you that right now. No such thing has happened. I will say that the person that we're talking about, the former member of the board, is actually here. And I want to say that I'm actually proud that he works for the district, because I believe in home rule. I believe that we have qualified people here that can do the job. Why not have the opportunity to do the job? I mean, I think that we have to together change the climate of what we think, because a lot of times you have people from someplace else in those jobs, and we don't hear a peep out of anyone. The last person who was in that job made $100,000. You know, he doesn't even make that much money. And secondly, he's more qualified than the guy who had the job. He took all his courses. He has a black seal, high pressure boiler license. He has all the certificates from Rutgers that qualify him to have the job. And as far as I'm concerned, he lives here. He's served on the Board of Education for free. We don't get paid. It's volunteer. So this is a person who's committed to the children, who's committed to the community, and is qualified for the position. Why would we discriminate against him because of that? See, I won't subscribe to the crabs in the barrel mentality. You know, we do that. You know, we can take a stranger and allow them to have something. But if somebody we know, we're looking at them up and down, like, yeah, you know, they shouldn't have that. Who do they think they are to have a nice car, have a nice job? I don't subscribe to that. And that will not be tolerated in this school district as long as I'm the president until they replace it. Specifically to answer your question, there is no lawsuit to where it costs us anything. That is the fact. So, I mean, I think that answers your question.